Hello, hello, hello. We are back, Fantasy Fanatic. I'm your host, Jordan. And today, we're going to be going through the scoreboards for Week 5 that we had in the SGS League, and then we're also going to look at Week 6. Took a little bit for me to make this video. It's been a busy week once again for me, so apologies to that. But we are back anyways. We're going to get this video rolling and going. I do want to add, man, these injuries in the NFL have been really plaguing some teams, and very unfortunate for some of these guys that some of the top guys going down. You got Nico Collins, you got Rashee Rice, you got bunch of people questionable, doubtful. I mean, it's just all over the place right now. Injuries are playing a big part this season so far, and they're just going to continue to pile up every week with the more weeks that we get into. So every team's got to be fully prepared for that. Got to have your handcuff backs ready. Got to have your next man up wide receivers ready to go. Got to have your backup QBs ready to go. It's just that time. It's just getting into that time of the season where these injuries are just going to continue to pile up. So that is currently where we're at with the state of fantasy football right now. And it will just continue to get worse, I feel like. So now some of these Week 5 matchups. So obviously we still had the 5-0 Burt. Burt is continuing to crush this year. His team is looking really good. He did have obviously bye weeks in effect, so no Jahmyr Gibbs this week for him. And then he still obviously has no Cooper Kupp, but his team continues to bounce back. His receivers have been playing well, and then Jaden Daniels has been one of the steals of the draft when it comes to QBs so far, with a massive 24 points. Derrick Henry with another pretty solid game. Didn't meet his projection, but still solid game. You would take 16 all day. Obviously, Zach Charbonnet was a panic play. Didn't really have anyone else to play, so it doesn't bother me whatsoever after making that trade to start him. George Pickens with only 4, but Brian Thomas with the massive game. His stock continues to rise on my board every week. He's definitely the number one guy for Jacksonville, and I think he will continue to be. Jaden Reed has been very impressive this year. Once again, another somewhat decent performance. You'll take that from him on a week-to-week basis if he can drop that. And then Pat Freiermuth, you'll take it from a tight end, you know. Good performances from the kicker and the Patriots defense as well. So, and then you look at Andy's side of things, and Andy's team didn't play bad this week. I mean, not a terrible performance. C.J. Stroud with a pretty strong showing. Josh Jacobs with a big game. Biggest games fantasy-wise of the year so far, so you love to see that from him. Just some down games from Mason, Lamb, Godwin. Kind of brought the team down. Broncos defense played very well. Trey McBride did okay for the tight end slot. But interesting to see how Jerome Ford goes with Nick Chubb most likely coming back, and he has both. He has arguably the best handcuffs in the league right now. Or he did a really good job with handcuffs in the first place because, for one, Jordan Mason, amazing. Then you're able to get Bucky Irving, and now you have Nick Chubb. So, I mean, it's pretty amazing how he drafted running backs this year, so not glazing you too hard, Andy. But obviously it was very impressive to see the amount of running backs he's got on the board right now. No Malik Neighbors for Burt, too. I forgot to mention that. So, I mean, wide receiver-wise, Burt's team is looking amazing. Probably the best wide receiver core that we got in the group right now. Unfortunately, they were beat up this week, but he still won. So, Burt is still 5-0. Andy goes to 3-2. Obviously, I think that Andy's team's kind of taken a dip on his stock lately. Not trying to hate, but I'm just saying it kind of has taken a dip these last couple weeks. Taking on some tough opponents, though. And I think that his team will probably bounce back next week too, just because he's got great guys on his team, so I think they'll continue to flourish. Right now, we'll move on to the next matchup, which was Chance and Easton. This matchup, very low scoring. I think it was the most low scoring matchup of the league. Yeah, it definitely was. Obviously, for one, Easton's team is starting to deal with a lot of injuries. Obviously, no Rashee Rice. You had Jalen Hurts on bye. You had Goddard on bye. You had Devin Singletary out. Still don't have Jonathan Brooks yet. And then Nico Collins went down. So this is very unfortunate. Easton's starting to get a lot of injuries on his team. Obviously, Nico Collins went to IR too, so that's not good news. And it's crazy because Nico Collins went down in that game, and he was still your top scorer this week. Josh Downs had a solid game. but everyone else was pretty much disappointing. Colby Parkinson, take that from a tight end all day. Steelers defense didn't play too bad against Dallas, forced a couple turnovers, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, like a couple interceptions. But, yeah, Deshaun Watson, unfortunately, just not a good play. Deshaun Watson will continue to struggle, but luckily you'll have Jalen Hurts back, and hopefully Jalen Hurts will also have A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith back, so that'll definitely boost his stock. Bijan's been somewhat of a disappointment this year. I will continue to mention that. He is kind of starting to dip on my rankings so far. I do think that he will eventually have one of those breakout games. But for right now, it's been very concerning to see that. And then Chance gets a dub, man. Chance is a shocker. He is 4-1 on the year. His team's been performing very well. Brock Purdy, not a bad performance, but didn't meet his projection. Breece Hall, he's been disappointing these past couple weeks. Jets have been a shit show. Really nothing else to say. I mean, Breece Hall, I think, will eventually start coming into form once again, but they just got to figure out all the drama that's going on in the Jets organization first. Rico Dowdle with his best game of the year so far. You love to see that from Rico. Looking like he will be the top guy going forward on this team, so you love to see that. Michael Pittman with a good performance. When Joe Flacco's under center, Michael Pittman will have a good game in my eyes. Jordan Addison a little bit disappointing this week. Ertz disappointing. Madison disappointing. And then obviously Young Hoku have a big game. Colts defense played terrible against Jacksonville. Alec Pierce on your bench with 20. Brandon Ayuk on your bench with 18. Zay Flowers on your bench with 15. So, man, doesn't matter. You still got the win by 5 points. Very close matchup. But, yeah, Chance 4-1. I think he's top of the SGS Sooner division right now. So keep up the good work, Chance. You're doing very good. Easton goes down to... 2-3 now? Yeah. And then next up you got Seth and Katie. So obviously one of these teams is going to come out on top. Both teams were 0-4 coming into this matchup. And Seth's team said, we are going to fucking play our lights out this week. Joe Burrow with an absolute massive game. Brian Thomas got the 2 touchdowns. Ended up having a pretty good fantasy performance because of it. Austin Eckler played decent. Led the team in carries. T. Higgins, 2 touchdowns, massive game for him. Rashid Shaheed, massive touchdown in that game. Most yards, most targets in the game as well. Shaheed continues to look very impressive. Kelsey, going to be the top guy going forward for KC. He's going to start performing a lot better too. Vikings defense, best defense in the league. Got to love having them. And then, obviously, Minnesota's kicker had a great week too. So, I mean, Seth's team in the long run right now is actually looking very promising. You got some really good pieces on your team. And Cincinnati, I think, will continue to boost their production of offense going forward with all their guys back. So that is good to see. Obviously, you might have Jonathan Taylor come back too, so that'll be huge for your team as well. Puka Nacua will eventually come back. So, Seth, I wouldn't be too worried. I think that your team is definitely going to start bouncing back in the right direction soon. Kyle, on the other hand, it is just very unfortunate for Kyle. I don't want to say he doesn't have terrible players on his team because I think some of the guys he's had this year have had great years so far. Geno Smith's been one of the top QBs in the league so far this year. He's position 5 right now. James Conner's had a solid year. He's a top 10 running back. Ramondre has been a little disappointing. He did have a great week this week, though. Justin Jefferson, I mean, obviously he's one of the top guys. He's 3rd right now. Deontay Johnson, a little bit disappointing. He's had a couple decent weeks lately, but this week was not good for him. Jake Ferguson, I know he's one of the top tight ends right now, too. Yeah, top 10. So, honestly, very disappointing. And the bench not looking the best. I mean, Rashawn Johnson maybe has some future value. Keon Coleman maybe has some future value. Jacoby Myers will be the top guy for Las Vegas with the dealt of Devontae Adams, so do keep that in mind. He might start becoming a decent flex play every week. But overall, it just does not look good for Kyle right now, and I know it's early still. We still got a lot of football left, so I don't want to count him out completely yet, but just with how the team's looking so far, everything's not looking the best for him. Hopefully that they'll continue to have great weeks and eventually get a win, but it's kind of like the situation I was having to start early on the year. I had a bunch of people going off on me, so I just had to dish it back, Next up, Jace and Connor. Battle of the pretty decent teams we got right here, man. I mean, this was a close matchup. We had a lot of close matchups this week, honestly. All deciding within a couple points. I think we had 1, 2, 3. We had 3 close matchups this week, so you got to love it. Really coming into this week, Jace's team was looking like they were going to be the stronger of the two. In my mind, I believe I picked Jace to win this week. I could be wrong. Just because of no Saquon for Connor. But, man, Connor's team fought. Josh Allen with a little bit of a disappointing performance for his standards. Javonte Williams actually had a good game, so you love to see that from Javonte. Kareem Hunt had a great game as well. Garrett Wilson's monster game, best game he's had of the season so far, so hopefully you'll continue to get that from him going forward. Marvin Harrison, disappointing game. It's fine, though. Tyler Conklin, pretty decent game for tight end. Terry McLaurin, looking good. Bears defense played great. Matt Gay with a decent performance for the kicking side. And then you go to Connor's side. Dak Prescott, decent game. You'll take it. Travis Etienne and Tyler Goodson were very disappointing this week, as well as Chris Olave. Stephon Diggs, honestly, his stock has gone up now with no Nico Collins, so he's going to be a must-start option every week going forward. Brock Bowers with a monster game. Darnell Mooney had that monster game as well. But, yeah, going forward, obviously you'll have Saquon back, and then really Stephon Diggs' stock has just rose tremendously. So I think that your team's looking good for the future overall. But Jace gets the dub right here, barely. 3-2 on the year. Connor is 3-2 as well. Jack Gray versus Dylan Perkins. Jack's team is starting to make a little bit of a run now. Started the year 0-3, but now he has gotten back-to-back wins now. Baker Mayfield leading the way, becoming one of the top QBs in the league so far this year. He is positioned 3 right now in QBs, so he continues to dominate. Alvin Kamara, disappointing game for his sake. I wouldn't expect that from a week-to-week basis, though, unless Derek Carr is out, though, so that's a little bit concerning to see. Cam Akers, honestly not a bad start. He ended up leading the backfield, did get that touchdown, so that was huge. Mike Evans, big game for him. Tank Dell, wouldn't be too necessarily worried about him yet with no Nico Collins now. His production should go up as well, so I think he's definitely worth flex consideration every week at this point. George Kittle with the great game. Roma Dunze has value going into the end of the season, so I would continue to stash him as you can. And then you'll get a McCaffrey back eventually, we hope. We'll see what happens with that. And then with Dylan's team, obviously the bye weeks with Amon-Ra, Lad McConkey, still no Joe Mixon, and Devontae Adams bullshitting is not helping his team whatsoever. Justin Fields was the right play to make a QB this week, I believe. Didn't have the best game. Zach Moss, disappointing, went down in that game. Tyron Tracy had a massive game, so that was good to see with no Devin Singletary. Jordan Whittington had a good game too. Jawan Jennings, I don't know about Jawan Jennings anymore. Might be worth a drop at this point with all the San Francisco players being back. Cole Kmet not doing too bad over his projection. Chase Brown looking great. Kamani Fairbairn with 16 points. But Jack's team just played great this week. Got to give credit where credit is due. Jack's team is on fire right now, and that's who I play next week. So, Jack 2-3 on the season. Good to see. And then Dylan also goes to 2-3 as well. And then we got Bryce versus Carson right now on the next matchup. Carson's team is on fire. Carson's team's playing very good right now. Lamar Jackson is leading the way, putting up monster numbers every week. Currently the number 1 QB, I believe. Yeah, he's just continuing to dominate. And then Kenneth Walker, Chuba Hubbard, having some pretty decent performances from the both of them right there. Wide receivers honestly didn't play great this week. Debo with a disappointing game. Mark Cooper, disappointing game. Tyreek Hill, disappointing game. But you'll continue to get that with Tyreek Hill, obviously, with the bad QB play. Amari Cooper, bad QB play as well. So don't like to see that. I wouldn't expect that from Debo every week. Debo should have a bounce back this week. Dalton Kincaid's been a little disappointing this year, but I still think he'll come back into form at some point. And then with Bryce's side of things, Kyler Murray, great game. Gotta love seeing it. Devon Achane, Aaron Jones were the disappointing ones because both of them went down this week, so got to monitor their injuries going forward. And then DJ Moore, Jackson Smith-Njigba, pretty decent performances for both of them. Got to love seeing it. Wan'Dale Robinson did really well as well in the flex spot for you. Just didn't get a lot from the defense, not a lot from the kicker. But a good thing for you, Bryce, is you get A.J. Brown most likely this week, and then maybe some flex consideration with Calvin Ridley going forward. So, but yeah, Carson is now 4-1, one of the top teams in the league right now. Bryce is 3-2, so he's obviously still in the hunt as well. Then final matchup of the week was me and Tuck. Coming into this week, I was definitely skeptical. I was needing my team to show up at the right moment, at the right time, being 1-3, but now getting to 2-3, I feel a little bit more confident in myself now. Hopefully we can try to get to even this week against Jack, but love the performance from my team this week. I mean, big games for Tucker Kraft, Drake London, Jamar Chase. They all led the way. Love the production from my running backs as well. Trey Sermon, DeAndre Swift, James Cook all played great this week. Justin Tucker with his best game of the year. He was actually making some field goals. And then Jordan Love, I'll take 20 from him all day. Obviously didn't meet his projection, but I'll still take 20. And then pretty much everyone on my bench didn't do shit. Now you look at Tuck and Mahomes, only 20 on the game, but still, you'll take that. Kyron Williams continues to play very well. Didn't meet his projection, though. Najee Harris didn't play great. Xavier Worthy got that touchdown late, so you'll take that. Kyle Pitts with a great game. Leggett got hurt, so that was unfortunate. Tyler Lockett played decent in the flex spot, met his projection. Big performances from the 49ers defense and the kicker, though. But yeah, just completely went off this week. No team in this league would have beat me this week with how my team played. So that was a great performance from my guys. Am I expecting this every week? Fuck no. I wish I could, but definitely a great performance, and I think a lot of my guys will have great bounce back weeks coming into the future. So now we're going to go into the Week 6 matchups. We'll go ahead and start with Andy versus Tuck. So as we look into this matchup, Tuck is needing to win. Tuck's team has taken a big dip after that first week, looking like one of the best teams in the league. Now it's starting to be a little bit of a concern with his team. Obviously, Isaiah Pacheco hurt. You got all the Chiefs players on bye. Devontae Smith still questionable. You got Kyron Williams on bye as well. So just not looking like a strong week for Tuck's team. Really would need a miracle, if I'm being honest, to win this week against a pretty stacked Andy team this week. Andy, I don't think, has any players on bye other than Jalen Waddle, but Jalen Waddle hasn't really been doing much ever since the QB plays went down tremendously in Miami. So 100% taking Andy this week. It would take a miracle for Tuck to win this week just because of how many players he has out. But yeah, Andy's team's looking very solid. Josh Jacobs and Jordan Mason both have pretty decent matchups coming into this week. CeeDee Lamb, Chris Godwin, not the bad matchups either. Trey McBride. Then you got Bucky Irving in the flex spot. So, yeah, looking really good. Broncos going up against the Chargers, but Broncos have been one of the top defenses in this year. So, we'll kind of see how this goes. Maybe Tuck's team can try to make it close, but it's just going to be tough to see. I think Andy's going to get the dub this week. Next up, we got Kyle and Easton. So Kyle obviously needed to win big time. Got a lot of questionables up in the board. Bye weeks in effect for both of these guys right now. Looks like no Justin Jefferson for Kyle, so that definitely hurts. Obviously, the Nico Collins injury hurts big time. No Rashee Rice anymore. Juju and Jalen Wright on bye. And then we got all these questionable tags for all these players right now. Ramondre Stevenson, Deontay Johnson, Jacoby Myers, Singletary, and Josh Downs. So Jalen Hurts going up against Cleveland. If he's got Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown back, I'd pick him over Geno. Geno's got a pretty tough matchup this week as well against the 49ers. Bijan and James Conner. Right now, I think Bijan's got the better matchup against Carolina, so I think Bijan should have a bounce-back week this week. We got Stevenson and Devin Singletary. If Singletary plays, he's got the better matchup than Stevenson does. But Stevenson, I think, is still the more talented back, so Stevenson could have a better week. DK, Josh Downs, Jacoby Myers, Deontay Johnson. Looking at these wide receivers, I do think that if Anthony Richardson plays this week, obviously Josh Downs' stock goes down. But if it's Joe Flacco once again, then you got to start Josh Downs this week because he's been way more productive with that going on. And then the flex spots, I like Jameson Williams more than Michael Wilson. I do like Kincaid more than Goddard, even though it's kind of even on both of those guys. We'll kind of see how that goes. But yeah, this is a really, really even matchup. Overall, I do kind of want to lean Easton's way just a little bit more, but I wouldn't be surprised if Kyle gets his first stub on the year. I mean, he needs it desperately. But it's getting to the point, Kyle, where I got to see it to believe it with your team. So, Easton, I think, will get the win this week. Next up, we got Burt and Chance, battle of two very good top teams in this league right now. Obviously, Burt's team, I think, is going to be projected to win every week just because of how good they are right now. You got to keep in mind Malik Neighbors still has a chance of not playing, but I think he will play this week just because it's concussion. I think that he'll come back. But yeah, looking like the stronger team for sure. I like Jaden Daniels more than Brock Purdy. Derrick Henry and Breece Hall. This will be interesting. I think Derrick Henry's got the better matchup against Washington, though. So, Jahmyr Gibbs taking on Dallas, David Montgomery. So, I think Jahmyr Gibbs is obviously the more talented back, but David Montgomery has been splitting this backfield and has been very consistent this year. I like Malik Neighbors more than Brandon Ayuk. Jaden Reed I like more than Zay Flowers. And then I like Freiermuth a little bit more than Zach Ertz. Brian Thomas, Rico Dowdle. I like Brian Thomas's flex value more than Rico. Don't want to overreact for one good week for Rico Dowdle. So, but yeah, looking at this, obviously Burt still's got to throw a kicker in there, but I think Burt's team will once again come out on top again. Burt's team is going to continue to stay hot. Looking at Seth and Bryce's matchup this week, Seth's projected to win pretty big time. Obviously, Aaron Jones is on bye, so you're going to have to throw in you're going to have to go pick up a running back, actually. So we'll see what happens with that. We'll see who you go pick up this week. But yeah, we got the bye weeks in effect, so the Aaron Jones obviously sucks. No Devon A-Chain as well. And then obviously no Travis Kelce. Continue to have no Puka Nacua for Seth. I think Seth's team's obviously looking stronger this week with if Jonathan Taylor and Brian Robinson play. If they don't play, then this matchup is going to be very close. I mean, you also have Eckler and Rashid Shaheed both questionable as well. So these questionables are very interesting to monitor going into this week. But I like Joe Burrow's matchup more than Kyler's this week, so I'd probably take Joe Burrow. Jonathan Taylor against whoever you start on the other side. Brian Robinson over Justice Hill for sure. I kind of like T. Higgins over DJ Moore, but DJ Moore had a great week last week. I think that he could still perform very well. And then Rashid Shaheed or Jackson Smith the Jimbo. This is a very even matchup, I feel like, with how Rashid Shaheed has played so far this year. I will say that I probably will lean towards Jackson Smith a little bit more, but Rashid Shaheed does have the better matchup. The only reason I'm leaning towards Jackson Smith is because of the chance of no Derek Carr. And then I like Dalton Schultz a little bit more than Taysom Hill this week just because of the aspect that there is no more Nico Collins. So Dalton Schultz stock should rise just a little bit this week, hopefully. I'm going to ride with Seth's team this week. I just think that they look better on paper, and if everyone's fully healthy, Seth should get the dub this week. Jace Dillon up next. Once again, another very close matchup. Jace, I feel like you got a close matchup every single week. It's always dead even almost. But Jace is projected to win this week. Bye weeks in effect for both of these guys. Obviously, Jace, no Kareem Hunt, so a little bit of hurt right there. But no bye weeks in effect for Dillon, so you got to love to see that from your team. I do like Josh Allen's matchup this week against the Jets, so I think Josh Allen will play pretty decent this week. Justin Fields against Vegas, not a bad matchup for him either. Vegas defense has been struggling somewhat this year. I obviously like Joe Mixon more than Javonte Williams, so I'd stick with Joe Mixon. If he's healthy, good to go. I don't think he's practiced yet. Let's see if he practiced today. He didn't practice yesterday. He actually was present for practice today, so that's a good sign for Joe Mixon. Zach Moss, if he's good to go, then I think he will continue to lead this backfield, but obviously still continue to start Chase Brown because Chase Brown, I think, is one of my favorites of the two for sure. J.K. Dobbins, tough matchup against Denver. So J.K. Dobbins has not played good in tough matchups so far this year, so just keep that in mind. I like Amon-Ra over Garrett Wilson, even though Garrett Wilson had a great bounce-back week. Marvin Harrison over Ladd McConkey in my mind. I think Marvin Harrison's got the easier matchup too. Ladd McConkey's going to probably have Patrick Surtain all over him this week. And then Evan Ingram, Tyler Conklin, pretty even on the tight end room right here, but I kind of like Tyler Conklin more. Evan Ingram's been a huge disappointment this year. And then I like this flex spot's actually very even too. Chase Brown, I think, has got the better matchup, so I might lean towards Chase Brown a little bit more. Also would lean towards Chase Brown a lot more if Zach Moss wasn't playing, so just keep that in mind as well. But yeah, this is going to be a great matchup, man. I think that overall, I think Dylan might get the win this week. I do like Dylan's team a little bit more. I know that he's playing 2 running backs on Cincinnati, but if worst case scenario, he could throw Tyron Tracy in there if no Devin Singletary. So that would be huge if that happened. So give me Dylan this week on that matchup. Next up, we got Connor and Carson, two other teams that are playing pretty good this year. Pretty even matchup right here as well. Bye weeks in effect. No Tyreek Hill for Carson, but that is it. So looking at these bye weeks, looking at the QB matchups this week, Lamar Jackson's got a great matchup against Washington. Should continue to excel. Dak Prescott with a little bit of a tougher matchup against Detroit. Saquon, Kenneth Walker, both got tough matchups this week. Obviously, I would lean Saquon's way 100% though. ETN, Chuba Hubbard. Right now, Chuba Hubbard's hot, so I got to keep riding with the hot guy. Chuba Hubbard continues to dominate. Not the easiest matchup for ETN as well. Olave, Debo, both have pretty decent matchups going into this week. I do want to lean towards Debo. I think Debo will have a good bounce-back game this week. Olave's been very disappointing this year. And then Amari Cooper, Stephon Diggs all day. Stephon Diggs should have a great week. I love Brock Bowers more than Jake Ferguson. Tough matchup at Pitt, but still I think Brock Bowers will have a good game. And then I'm liking the Darnell Mooney flex spot more than Dontavian Wicks. Darnell Mooney going up against Carolina. If healthy, he will have a great game. So, but yeah, this will be a great matchup. Excited to see it. I think that I will lean towards... Man, this is so dead even in my mind. Give me Connor. I think Connor will get the dub this week. No, give me Carson. I like the Lamar play more. I think Lamar's going to carry this team once again this week. I'll go with Carson's way. I think Battle of the Calavans, Carson will come out on top. So then last but not least, me and Jack's matchup. Looking into this, no bye weeks in effect for either of us, so that's great to see for both of our squads. I do like my chances this week, though. Obviously, my team had a great week last week, so their projection's very high, so I knew that was going to be the case coming in. DeAndre Swift, Drake London's projections are super high this week, so... but yeah, looking into this, Baker Mayfield has a pretty decent matchup against New Orleans. Jordan Love has a pretty decent matchup against Arizona. James Cook, Alvin Kamara. I think that Alvin Kamara has the better matchup, but James Cook could have a good week this week. He's been very consistent so far. Obviously love DeAndre Swift more than Ezekiel Elliott. I do like this matchup with Mike Evans, Jamar Chase. I think Jamar Chase has the better matchup against the Giants this week, though. Could end up being more run-heavy, though, if they get a big lead up early, though, so that would hurt Jamar Chase tremendously. It's kind of the same with Drake London, too, taking on Carolina. Better matchup than Tank Dell going up against New England, so... And then Tucker Kraft, George Kittle. I like George Kittle more. Obviously been more consistent, but Tucker Kraft has been ascending as of late. I think I'm going to continue to keep him in. I like his matchup against Arizona. Sam Laporta's got a matchup against Dallas. Both projections are dead even, so I think I'm going to keep Tucker Kraft in. I think I'm going to just ride with the hot hand here, and then I'd start a Texans defense, Justin Tucker. But yeah, this will be a good matchup, I think. Jack's team will definitely fight for sure. But hopefully I can get to even on the season, and then I can start maybe trying to make some noise. Let's check out the standings real quick. Right now in SGS Sooners, I knew Chance was number 1. Then you got Jace and Bryce at 2 and 3. Pretty much tied at 2 and 3, but obviously we got to look into the points. The PFs that we got for both of them. Obviously, Jace has a little bit more points overall right now. And then I'm 4th. You got Dylan 5th. Tuck is 6th. And then Kyle is 7th. And then looking at the Poke side is looking pretty strong right now. Burt continues to be undefeated. Carson is 4-1. So I will say two of the top teams in the league right now are on the Poke side, so yay, go Pokes, whatever. Bryce and Andy, both solid teams. They're playing very well right now too. And then you got Easton and Jack 2 and 3, and then Seth is 1 and 4 at the bottom. So, and then we look at the season stats so far. Right now, the top guy for the most points so far scored in the league is obviously Burt. His team has been dominating this year. Second is going to be Connor. Connor's team's been playing very well, so they will be second on this board. And then we're looking at third, I believe, is Carson. So third in points is Carson on the season. Great start for him. And then we got fourth is Andy. Andy's got 556 points so far scored on the season. And then I am fifth with 550. Easton is sixth with 548. And then seventh is surprisingly Seth, which I actually did not know his team has been scoring this much. 530 on the season. So pretty big week last week, though, so I can see why those points went up dramatically. And then you got Tuck as well. Tuck is at the bottom with 511 points scored. And then Jace, I think it's Jace is up next. Yeah, Jace is up next. And then you got, let's look, Bryce, Jack, Dylan, Kyle, and then the big surprise is Chance's team. Only scoring 449 points on the season, but is second overall in the league right now. Over Carson right now. So very, very interesting. Chance's team's he's had great matchups every week. I mean, the teams have only scored 411 on him in the week. So, yeah, that's very impressive to see. 4-1 for Chance only scoring that many points. Literally the least amount of points in our league, which is insane. That is crazy. Now looking at that is wild. So, yeah, that's pretty crazy. And then obviously we'll look at the final standing projections. I mean, this is just kind of to give us an idea of how all the teams are looking so far. Number 1 currently is Burt. Obviously, we kind of knew that coming in. 2 is Carson. 3 is Chance. 4 is going to be Andy. 5 is Bryce or Connor. God, I do that every single time. 6 is Bryce. 7 is Jace. 8 is going to be me. 9 is Easton. You got 10 right now is Dylan. 11 is going to be Jack. 12 Seth. 13 Tuck, and then Kyle right now is projected last. So, any big moves this week as well for our guys? Some of these waiver wire pickups. The most recent trade we had was October 8th, which was on Tuesday. This was actually a really big trade. We had Jameson Williams and Dalton Kincaid for Jake Ferguson, Zamir Whites, and Dontavian Wicks. I do like this trade overall for Kyle. I do like getting I do like getting Jameson Williams. I do like getting Kincaid, but also benefits Carson too with getting Jake Ferguson. And then Dontavian Wicks maybe does have a future. We'll see. Zamir White just kind of like just thrown in there, We'll see. But yeah, waiver wire pickups. I mean, nothing really too big. A lot of just kickers. I mean, Easton went and picked up Michael Wilson yesterday. Darius Slayton got picked up by Connor. Christian Watson got dropped. Tutu Atwell got dropped. But yeah, pretty much a lot of kickers. I mean, Easton did end up getting Juju. Tajee Spears got picked up by Dylan, and then Dalton Schultz got picked up by Easton, or by Seth, and then Kyle picked up Jalen Tolbert after Jalen Tolbert having the big week. So, but yeah, we'll keep those waivers in mind too. Maybe some more trades will happen so far this season. But yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. I don't really have anything else to talk about. We'll look into the slate for the NFL at some point this week, but I will be gone. I will be at OU Texas this weekend, so very excited to go watch that. Might have to do a pod like on the road, so we'll see. I might do that. Might try to do like a little phone stream or something like that I used to do in the past. So we might throw that on, do a little stream for that. But other than that, I mean, really, I think that's it for me. What time is it? 1:57. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I ain't got nothing else to talk about, so that'll be it. I think that's pretty much the end of it for us today. So thank y'all for tuning in. We will be back sometime, maybe this weekend or sometime next week. If I have any time this weekend, I'll try to get it done. But we'll see what my hotel is working with that I'm staying in. But everyone enjoy their week. Go fucking Sooners. Hopefully we can somewhat keep this game close. Obviously, don't have any high expectations, but hey, OU Texas, you just never know what's going to happen. So, but thank you to everyone tuning in. I will see y'all later.